My career started off when I was a young boy, probably 13 or 14 years of age. Dad used to take me to the football, and there was an advertisement in the paper for Carlton under 13s, and I answered that. I think I might have been 11 years of age, I think, when I think of it, and I went and trained there, and what became then was a terrific adventure. You know, playing each Saturday morning, thinking how good was this. This went up through the grades to under 15, under 17, played with Carlton under 19s. And then Ron Barassi came along, and Ron sort of said to me, I think you should move on, Dennis. So I was really disappointed because I was only 18 and always playing ahead of my grade. But you know, he saw something that he perhaps didn't like, and we all accept that. And so I went on, and I went across to North Melbourne and played with their under 19s. Well, my form was pretty good at that stage, so I was quickly promoted to the seconds, and I thought, well, how good's this? So I was playing in the seconds as an 18-year-old, and the next year I was invited to training with the senior group. So I played the first 4 or 5 games in the seconds, and then mid-season, might have been 7 or 8 games, I got an opportunity to play for North Melbourne seniors. We're talking 1967 here, and that was probably the most exciting part of your football life. 19 years of age, no worries, nothing but to worry about, just playing football, and it was terrific. And those days at the old Arden Street Oval, playing under coaches like Keith McKenzie and Les Foote, who coached us to a premiership at reserve level at that time, was pretty special stuff, and they're memories I really cherish now, and the people I played with. We just had a reunion of that 1967 side, and it was one of the most pleasant evenings I went to. My career went on, you wouldn't believe it. 1973, Ron Barassi was appointed coach of the Kangaroos, and I established myself as a senior player at that stage, represented the state in that famous game over in Subiaco Oval, where Lee Matthews unfortunately ran into Barry Cable and caused mayhem. And I thought my career was going along fine. 73 came along, Ron was our coach, and gee, we learned so much off Ron Barassi as a coach, and some of the things that he said absolutely ring in my ear even now, even though I'm not coaching a football team at the moment. And I think about some of the things he said constantly. Next year, North Melbourne played in their first grand final since since the 70s. No, it wasn't. That's wrong. Played in their first grand final since 1950, I think. And Ron Barassi was brought back to the club to give us an opportunity to being successful. And unfortunately, the 1974 grand final against Richmond was my last game at the club. Left the club then. Ron thought it was a good idea that I move on again, and I went to South Melbourne, where I played there for 3 years. But I was, pretty much finished as a player at that stage. But my opportunity came along with to coach, and I was asked to coach Yarraville in the VFA. I think we're probably talking 1978 now. Playing coach, and I reckon when you coach a football team for the first time, you're just so wet behind the ears, and I think I probably spent the next 2 years practising on the players, playing coach. I was asked to come back to the Kangaroos and help out as a specialist coach with a lot of the young boys, and I did that for 12 months, but I really got the bug then because I wasn't playing anymore, and I wanted to coach my own team. And John Ibrahim, who was coached down to 19s at that stage, decided he'd had enough, and he suggested to the board and the coach of North Melbourne at that stage, Barry Cable, that Denis Pagan should coach their juniors, their under 19 team. And I did do that. I did it for 10 years, and we played in 9 grand finals for 5 premierships, and it was a wonderful period of my life, and met so many wonderful young men who've grown up now, got their own families, and I often speak to them, and it's a terrific feeling. Went from there, when the under-19 competition finished in 1991, I went to Essendon as Kevin Sheedy's assistant and reserves coach there. We played in a grand final that year and were premiers, and that was a wonderful experience. And Essendon were a great club to go to. But on the 3rd of March, I'll never forget it, the 3rd of March 1993, I was driving into my driveway, and I had a call from a North Melbourne director. And he said to me, "Dennis, would you like to go for an interview to be senior coach?" And I tried to be as nonchalant and laid back as I could, and I said yes, sure would. North Melbourne had been beaten by over 150 points in a pre-season game at Football Park in Adelaide. Adelaide absolutely smashed the Roos. And Wayne Schimmelbusch, who was coach at the time, unfortunately lost his job. And there were 3 people who were the club asked to interview. There was Dermot Brereton, Rodney Eade and myself. And I didn't think much at that stage. I thought, how am I going to get that? there's always a perception of a junior coach. Can he coach at senior level? But not many junior coaches get the opportunity. Anyway, I remember that night, that Wednesday night, I sat up all the night preparing my proposal and documentation for the interview. I got a mate of mine's PA to type it all up for me. It was for the next day. I was pretty lucky actually, because probably some 4 months earlier I had an opportunity to go for an interview with the Melbourne Football Club. The night before that interview I found out Neil Baum had already won the position, and I can remember ringing my manager and saying, "What do I do?" And he said to me, "I think you should go for it because it's a wonderful experience." And I went there for an AFL coaching interview, knowing I wasn't going to get the job. And I went through it, and some of the questions that I were asked were amazing. And at the end of the interview, I said to Hassan Mann, who was the Chief Executive Officer of the Melbourne Football Club at that stage, he said, "Thanks for coming, Denis." And cheeky as I am, I said to him, "Hassan, you've made a mistake here. You should have appointed me." And I left it at that, and he just shook my hand and smiled. And funnily enough, some 10 years down the track, I saw him and he said, "You know what, you're probably right. So I think you should believe in your own ability."